Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi. I think you do better on the other thing. So leave that. Just, yeah. That's, I don't know what we call that. Bells? Do the bells? No. You have to go. Oh, you have it. Okay, there you go. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha. No. When this left hand hits this, then that should be a sign that you should be hitting. Jaya, no, watch. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON DVT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-gita Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of December 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhu, just in case, hello? Just in case on the outside that some lady arrives, if you could just move over to that seat over there. Yeah, there's a book and everything for you. Sorry, because we sometimes have some ladies come. Okay, on this day we're reading beginning chapter 4 on page 181, entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Abravit Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravit Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravit Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravit. One of you, go ahead. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravit Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravit. Word by words. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Imam, this, Vivasvāte, unto the Sun God, Yogam, the science of one's relationship to the Supreme. Proktavan, instructed, Aham, I, Avyayam, imperishable, Vivasvān, Vivasvān, the Sun God's name, Manave, unto the Father of mankind, of the name Vivasvāta. Praha told Manu, the father of mankind, Ikṣvāku, unto King Ikṣvāku. Abravit said. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvān, and Vivasvān instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikṣvāku. Purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of the Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivasvān, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita 552, it is stated, Yat chakshar esha sabita sakalagrahanam raja samasta sudamurti rashesha tejaha yasyagya brahmati sambitakada chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. Close quote. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god, at present of the name Vivasvān, rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvān his first disciple to understand the science of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. Page 182. In the Mahabharata, the Shanti Parva 348, 51 and 52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta yugado chatato Vivasvān manavedadao manushaloka bhrityartam sutayekshavavedadao Ikṣvāku chakatito vyapyaloka navastitaha. In the beginning of the millennium known as the Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivasvān to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikṣvāku, the king of this earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaj Ikṣvāku. Close quote. At the present moment, we have just passed through the 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, 800,000 years, and before that, there was Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son, Maharaj Ikṣvāku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305,300,000 years, of which 120,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvān, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago, and in human society it has been extant for 2 million years. It was respoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita, according to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. It was spoken by the sun god Vivasvān because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god, or the Surya Vangsha Kshatriyas. Because the Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurushaya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are, without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, And it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son, Manu, and Manu spoke to his son, Ikṣvāku. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is a very important verse and it's a very important chapter, because in this chapter we hear of the history of the Bhagavad Gita. How and why Krishna comes to earth? He comes very infrequently. We are very fortunate, practically, by the calculation of these time intervals, practically yesterday he was here. He came about 5,000 years ago. That's the history we have. And he brought with him a facsimile of what's going on in the spiritual world. And he manifests those pastimes in a place called Vrindavan, which is near Delhi in India now. Very holy place, and there are many temples there, and many devotees congregate there. We have a big temple there also now. So, why does he come? He explains. He'll be explaining in a few verses. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. Oh, Bharata, that's a name for Arjuna. Whenever and wherever there arises a discrepancy in dharma, at that time I come, in order to paratanaya sadhana, in order to protect the devotees, to eradicate their miscreants, and to reestablish actual dharma. So the question, dharma is very important subject matter in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, who's one of the, I say the two main protagonists, Krishna's the protagonist, but Arjuna is very essential also. He's a student of Krishna. So this is all being spoken on a battlefield, on a chariot. And this is 18 chapters in hundreds and hundreds of chapters in a big book called the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is a standard book of knowledge. It's one of the histories, main histories, the other one being the Ramayana. It was mentioned about Lord Ramchandra in this purport. At the Mahabharata, the main plot, there's many chapters, and they describe. I remember working on the Mahabharata. The BBT at one point was planning to publish it. The BBT being the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, which is Srila Prabhupada set that up in 1972, I think, no, 73. And it oversees the production of all the books in all the different languages, Srila Prabhupada's books. And Bhagavad Gita is one of the most important, if not the most important. So the book trust was set up to print these books, and the Bhagavad Gita has its own history, because Prabhupada didn't come with the Bhagavad Gita, he came with the beginnings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's another main book we have called the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, multi-volumes. It's now printed in 18 volumes. So he began writing that in India. He was alone, he had no money, he had to beg so much money to make it. It took like 4 years to print 3 books. And that consisted, or comprised the first canto. There were 12 cantos. So, and then with those books, he had several cases of them with him. He came to America. He had about $7 worth of rupees. He didn't come on an ocean liner. He came on that's not such a good place to sit. Yeah. Hari Bol, Mark. Yeah, nothing was set up, so you may have to pull up a. So Srila Prabhupada came on this cargo boat. He got a free passage on not a boat with so much comforts. And he was elderly, he was 69, not in the best of health, but he had this order from his spiritual master or guru that he should spread the science of bhakti in the English language in foreign countries, especially America, beginning in America. So after many years of preparing, he came in the age of 69, and he started this whole movement at that time. And he would speak on the Bhagavad Gita, but there was no Bhagavad Gita printed. He had his own Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, and he would translate. This was the first classes that he would give. So the point here, this chapter, as explained, this is describing the history of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna is saying to Arjuna that this is nothing new that I'm teaching you here. He's gone through just 3 chapters. That I spoke this whole science millions of years ago to the sun god, and then it came down in human society. But due to, as he will explain in the next verse, due to the force of time, it became distorted and dissipated, this science. And so I have to speak it again and renew it in human society. So there's a rough history here of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is called the parampara, the disciplic succession. You have a realized guru, or Krishna himself, and he's speaking it to a disciple who then absorbs the knowledge, lives the knowledge, becomes exemplary in becoming self-realized, God-realized, and then he also teaches it. Now Arjuna, as far as we know, did not act as a spiritual master and teach. But others in that generation did. And we have a list at the beginning, at the end of the introduction, of how the knowledge has come down from Krishna to Brahma, from Brahma to Vyas, from Vyas to Narada, Narada down all the way down to Srila Prabhupada. And there is a generation of gurus today in ISKCON who are able to initiate and draw you into the family of devotees. So this is the part of the history, and Arjuna will wonder, well, how could you have spoken it? You know, he'll ask, how is that possible? We're contemporaries, basically, you know. He's talking about he did something millions of years ago. And Krishna will explain, yes, I can remember that because my body doesn't change. I have a spiritual body, but you don't. And and every time we reincarnate, we forget everything in the past life. I'm assuming nobody here can remember his past life, you know. But we have faith. That's the A of the ABCs of spiritual life and spiritual understanding. Understanding we're not this body. The body is simply a vehicle, very wonderfully engineered, but it's no more than a car or a machine that we inhabit for a certain number of years, and then inevitably it breaks down, one reason or another, and it's not functional, but we don't die. We leave the body. The body is then burned or buried or discarded, and we go on to another body according to the acts we perform, the mentality that we created, the consciousness. The subtle body, just like we have 2 bodies, just like we have I have a jacket here, but I also have a kurta on, you know. So this jacket is my external body that you see. But the kurta represents the subtle body, which consists of mind, intelligence, and ego. That doesn't die when the body dies. The body obviously gets destroyed. That is the template upon which you get your new body. And there are higher powers, the demigods, the super soul, keeping track of all of our, the subtle body and giving us just the right body for our next life. Now, if we don't act properly and then, we're very sinful, we may very well lose the human form of body. We don't die, but we go down into one of these lower life forms. But then we come up again to the human form. So as I like to emphasize, is we should take advantage of it. It is such a rare gift, and only in the human form can one understand this philosophy and act on it, and to redirect our natural, animal instincts for seeking pleasure, sex pleasure and other pleasures, and eating and sleeping and other activities that really help to cover the actual spiritual nature of the soul. But if we have the knowledge with our higher intelligence, we can control the lower self and act in such a way that the soul can eventually get liberation from this round of birth, old age, disease, and death. Birth, old age, disease, and death in all different species. And regain our original spiritual form and be back to the spiritual world. That's the purpose of this movement and the goal of human life. So the Bhagavad Gita is a very essential, basic book of knowledge that gives us understanding who is God, who we are, what is this nature, and how can we practice yoga, bhakti yoga, in such a way that we can make progress in this lifetime or even complete the course and become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. So this is essential knowledge. And Krishna, Prabhupada quotes several important verses here. One from the Brahma Samhita. This is another book that's published by the BBT. But let's go on. If there's no questions here, we'll read this next verse, which is about the parampara, or the disciplic succession. Thank you for visiting. Hare Krishna. All right, text 2. You ready? Evam parampara praptam imam raja shayo viduhu sakani neha mahata yogo nashtak parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Purport. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly the Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, also there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic, because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, or disciplic succession, system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. The Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time. So this is the history of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken here, and the history of the Bhagavad Gita as it is also being given. Because I read a Bhagavad Gita before I ever heard of the Hare Krishnas. This was like in the late 60s. I started getting involved in the Ramakrishna mission, which is the impersonalists. And I had no idea, and I started out with Hatha yoga, as many people do today. Physical yoga. I needed to get my health back. I had a serious case of hepatitis, and so I was, open to that. And gradually, I heard about Bhakti yoga, and so I said, well, let's check it out. And I went there, and it was just too much. I was used to meditating and everything, and I walked in, and there was this loud music, and there were these guys in orange carrying these big plates of food. I don't know where they were going. They're going to eat all that food, and it was just a mystery, But my saving grace was I picked up the mantra. I integrated the mantra into my Hatha yoga practice. It was very calming and soothing and powerful. And the mantra itself is so powerful that it drew me into finding out more. And eventually I got a Krishna book, and the teaching of Lord Chaitanya was the book that really got me going, that convinced me. So, this book was present at the time. This edition was published in 1972. I joined in 1973. So it was there. And then it was revised in 1983. A lot of little problems were in it. We're coming up on one verse, I think, text 5. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight. I'll tell you one of my corrections that I found in the book. But the point of this book is to introduce the idea of this verse. It's to introduce the idea of the parampara. Very important point. Parampara simply means realized guru, then teaches his disciple, who in turn becomes a guru, teaches his disciple, and comes down that way. And there's a whole list, as I mentioned at the beginning here in the introduction. So Krishna is part of the parampara. He's the originator of the parampara. And then we have Lord Brahma, and then, as I mentioned, Narada Muni, and Vyasadeva, and then Madhvacharya, and down to Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada also taught his senior disciples, and we have gurus today. Bhadrinarayan Swami is here, he has disciples. In fact, he was up in LA to initiate at least one more disciple. So this is how it goes on. And we're meant also to become well, saturated with the philosophy and teach others. And Lord Chaitanya said, everyone should become a guru, on my order. Just whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. Yara Dekitarika Krishna Upadesh. Amara Agyaya Tar Edesh. In this way, on my order, you become gurus and deliver this whole land, you see. Because this knowledge is essential for the progress of the soul. Every living being is a soul, and especially human beings can understand it. And so an essential part of this movement has always been to share. These temples are not just for those living here, but basically to provide a place where people can come, see the deities, hear especially, hear Bhagavad Gita and hear Kirtan and Hare Krishna. And in this way to experience the mood of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the place, the spiritual world where there's no anxiety. So that's what we try to do. I've been trying to keep the Bhagavad Gita class going all these years. Prabhupada wanted it. Morning and evening classes. When I joined, everyone was there. We had about 50 devotees and 60 devotees in the temple. And everyone was there in Mangalartik, and everyone was there for evening Kirtan, which is a whole special song about Lord Chaitanya being worshipped on the bank of the Ganges. It was very, very ecstatic. It's still very ecstatic. But hearing is the first and most important part of devotional service. By so much knowledge we get from hearing, whether it's material knowledge or spiritual knowledge. But the spiritual knowledge, if one hears with an open mind and you receive the knowledge and then you act on it, then everything becomes more attractive as you go on. Reading Bhagavad Gita and chanting Hare Krishna. Because this is our natural source of pleasure, is hearing and chanting about Krishna, serving Him, and being conscious of Him. He Himself in the spiritual world, it's total bliss. Leela, every day is different. It's not just, you don't just sit there. Meditation is a means, it's not the end. It's a means to reach that place. And then there's just these loving relationships with God in all varieties. It's an amazing revelation to learn about that. And a great relief, really, to think, yeah, okay, well, okay, I want to get free of birth and death. Do I have to lose my personality? Well, that's what they say. A lot of yogis say, yes, you just have to become pure consciousness and merge into the white light, and then you're free. But how long can you stay there? We are persons, irreducible persons, spiritual persons. But our spiritual personality has been covered by this material body and by what we call the modes of nature. So it's simply a question of purification and uncovering what's already there. Nitya siddha Krishna prema sadhu kabunoi shabanadi shuddha chitte kariyayudoi. This is a verse I quoted recently. Lord Chaitanya spoke to one of his prime disciples, Sanatana Goswami. And he was teaching him, just like Arjuna is learning here. Sanatana Goswami was learning from Lord Chaitanya. This is only 500 years ago. And he says, the eternal perfection of love of God, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema is the goal of this whole process. Love for Krishna, which includes liberation. You see? But that goal is really... So that perfection is there in every living entity. It's just buried now. And by the process of bhakti, chiefly hearing and chanting. Shravanadi, Shravanadi means hearing, etc. So the first etc. is chanting, hearing, chanting, etc. Shravanadi shuddha chitte, the consciousness becomes purified and that natural prema manifests. It's just like cleaning something, the analogy of a mirror. Suppose a mirror is very dusty, you can't see hardly anything reflected, it doesn't work. But if you clean it off nicely, you polish it, then you can see yourself in the mirror. So your heart is like that. Our hearts are covered by all of these material desires and anxieties and karma and all of this garbage. But by the process of chanting, especially congregationally, with drums and chant, that is such a powerful process that cleanses the heart. And the natural love for God manifests. And with that is love for everybody. That's where real universal love can come. Because everyone's part and parcel of God. We're all brothers and sisters. He's the Eternal Father. What did he say? I'm going to have to review my verses. If I get the first line, then it's there. But right at the beginning of chapter 14, Krishna says, Yeah. No. Sarva yonishu. Sarva yonishu konteya murtiyak sambhavanteya tasam brahma mahadyoni aham bija pradakpita. You should understand that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. So we're all children of God, and therefore we're all brothers and sisters. And so we have a natural affinity for serving each other and joining together in glorifying the Father. And that's how we actually can be very blissful. Okay, I'm going to go on. So, evam parampara praptam, it came down to cyclic succession, but the course of time is very powerful. Things get disorganized over time. Obviously, entropy increases. So even the science of God here can be covered. That's what Krishna says in the verse we just read. Sakalena mahata, the powerful mahata force of time, kala, calls it yoga nashtak, that the yoga to be covered, parantapa. Now, it's interesting that Krishna starts this chapter, text 1 that we read, imam vivasvate yoga. He said, this science of yoga, what science of yoga is that? He hasn't spoken about any yoga yet. So he's referring to the last verse of the previous chapter. Evam buddhe puram buddha, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, intelligence, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So this steadying of the mind, focusing it on the Supreme, who is the Supreme Person, Krishna, that's yoga. So this yoga, he's talking about Bhakti Yoga. I spoke it to the sun god who spoke it to Vivasvān, and Anand, it's come down. So that's where he's got the yoga, and it's come down by the parampara, but the force of time has dissipated it destroyed it, so I'm renewing it. And so now he says in the third chapter, what is Arjuna's qualification? Very important. That's spoken in the next verse. Sahevayam mayateja yoga prokta puratanaha bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam yetaruttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. A very important verse, because without that bhakti, we can't understand it. There has to be some affinity. Purport. There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science, owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotee is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna, and thus be benefited by this great science of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, he's speaking. So Krishna says, "I'm speaking the same science to you today. Yoga Puratana means the original ancient. Bhaktosime, because you're my bhakta, and Rahasyam Yetaruttamam." So Arjuna is receiving it because he's not envious of Krishna. He's his friend. And so he'll receive it in the proper mood, and it'll have its desired effect. At the end of the book, he actually fights. He surrenders to Krishna, and he does something that emotionally he doesn't want to do, but he knows in his higher sense that this is what Krishna wants, so therefore it'll make me happy, and it'll be the best thing to do. And it'll be the essence of Dharma. Because he was very concerned that he was deviating from Dharma. He said, Karpanya dosha pahata swabhava prichami from Dharma sambuddha cheta. my chaita, my consciousness is bewildered about what real dharma is. And that's a big concern in India. And is this the right thing to do? Am I following the dharma? Because we know if I deviate from dharma, I'm going to be punished. Deviating from dharma is bad karma, so to speak. So what is real dharma, and how can we follow it? Now this dharma will be spoken of here. This is bhakti yoga is the sanatan dharma, the eternal dharma of the soul, and it's defined nicely in that big book I talked about called Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the second chapter of the first canto. The question of the sages was, there was a great meeting of sages in India, in a place called Naimisharanya, and the original meeting was Shukadeva Goswami was speaking to King Parikshit on the bank of the Yamuna, the science of Bhagavatam. And so Sutta Goswami was there in the meeting. He heard the verses, he memorized them all, 18,000, can you imagine? And then he repeated it at Naimisharanya. And so what is the real essence of Dharma? Well, we hear one thing, Dharma tu sakshat bhagavat punitam. That Dharma is the word spoken by God, Of course, you can't hear God directly, so that can also be cheating. Oh, God spoke to me and He told me, to surrender, you should give all your money to me. That's cheating. But the meaning of Dharma, the function of Dharma is spoken in this second chapter. So he says, Savai Pungsang Paro Dharma. Paro Dharma means the supreme Dharma. Savai Pungsang Paro Dharma Yato Bhaktir Alhokshajay. Is that activity which uncovers your natural devotion to the Supreme God. Arhokshaja. Hoksha, the name for God, means He is transcendental. We can't see Him with our present senses, but we have faith that He's there, and that if we follow the process, He'll reveal Himself to us. You see. So, Savai Pungsam Parodama Yato Bhaktir Hokshaja. Then what are the qualifications? He describes it further in that same verse. Ahaituki and apratayata. Yadma superseded. Such dharma fully satisfies the soul. The soul will be completely satisfied if you perfect this dharma. So those two words are very important. Ahaituki means no material motivation. You're not worshiping Ganesh so that your business can be successful. You're not worshiping Lord Shiva so you can be very, get a lot of money, whatever. That's also a kind of dharma, but that's materialistic. It's not paro dharma. This is supreme dharma. You're worshiping Krishna so that you can awaken your eternal love for Him and be situated again in your natural constitutional position. Now you had a question. You have to speak to a mic though. Is it okay? Okay. Give him the mic. Did you have a question or a comment? I thought you raised your hand, kind of.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, Prabhu, sorry and thank you. Okay. But Prabhu, what about surrender? Lord Shiva is a devotee. What about asking Lord Shiva help to surrender the mind to Krishna, Prabhu?
That's okay. That's okay. But the point is that millions of people approach Him for material benefit. That's how He's usually approached. It's fine, and Lord Shiva is glorified in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a whole chapter called the Song of Shiva. You know how to turn it off? Just hold the switch until it goes off. Yeah, so that's fine. Shiva is known as the best Vaishnav. Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. So it's a question of why you approach Him and what you ask for. You can also approach Krishna for something material, but you might not get what you want. You get what you need. Isn't there a song like that? Go ahead.
Sorry, Prabhu, I don't want to be excessive, so at any time I accept that you just told me. But this is important because actually I would like, if it's possible, to talk later in the class, maybe not today, some other day. Okay. Some devotees, some bhaktas may be struggling with this, and they even tell to others because they may have some intellectual skills and say, well, worship Lord Chandra, or worship Buddha on Wednesday. No, but worship Lord Shiva to this purpose is highly beneficial because even Lord Shiva gets engaged with pleasure with that. And to befriend Lord Shiva is a great thing.
Well, the thing is I play it safe. Prabhupada never recommended that we worship Lord Shiva separately. He gave us a Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, just turn it off. So that we're going to go on.
For this purpose only.
Yeah, yeah. And we get to the 4th canto, and you find wonderful glorification of Lord Shiva, and he's glorifying Krishna. He's giving a song, the song of Lord Shiva, to the prachetas, who have retired and going to meditate, and they're going to be progenitors. And they learn this beautiful song, and it's a song to Krishna. He's praying, how's it go? I forget the verse now, but he's praying to get a vision of Krishna. You know, it's a perfect Vaishnava prayer. So that's the way we should worship Shiva. But millions and millions of people, they approach him for some material benefit, which is just self-defeating. You know, that's the point. All right, so did we read 3? I'm getting... No. Okay. Sahebhayam mayateja yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosime sakacheti rahasyam yetaruttamam. So this is the verse describing why he's speaking to Arjuna now. We did do it. Okay. Yeah, the very ancient science, because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Okay. So Arjuna now has some doubts. Apadam bhavato janma padam janma vivasvataha katametad vijaniyam tvamadao proktavaniti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvān is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Purport. Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord, so how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjuna inquires on this point, as if he were himself not aware of the personality of Godhead or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything, and the last word in transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal original person, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at the present, but from time immemorial. And the demons alone reject him. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons, who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone, for his own interest, know the science of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange, because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint, but those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists, who consider Krishna an ordinary man, may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental, and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna, like Arjuna, is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being, subject to the modes of material nature. So we're going to have to end now. We're almost out of time. But we'll continue tomorrow. And Krishna will reveal that he's had many, many births, and Arjuna was there, but Arjuna forgot. But Krishna doesn't forget. Krishna doesn't forget because he never changes his body. And we forget because everything has changed. So can anyone here remember his last life? I don't. I can't remember. I don't want to remember. But, but it was there. Not just that life, but many, many, many others. But we've forgotten. That's one of Krishna's mercies on us. He allows us to forget. But Arjuna was present, but he forgot it, so Krishna will explain that to him. And all right, so tomorrow, if you're here, I'll tell you my little correction that I found in the next purport, the text 5. But now we have about 1 minute. I can share a little poem with you. So, a few verses from the Kevalashtaka. It's about the holy name, so I'll skip the Sanskrit. I'll just give it English. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari, that's Krishna. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the mother, he's the father, he's the friend most true. And she's the real, no, he's the guru, he's the father, he's the friend most true, and she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always hear and chant the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Now this is the next verse is my favorite. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees whose hearts are fixed in Him and free of all impurities uplift their voices high and sing His name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Okay, so that's all we have time for. We better adjourn because they're going to blow that concha soon. Maybe we can do the last 3 verses later. Okay, thank you for your attention. We will convene at the same place, same station, tomorrow. Yes, text 5 we'll have. Maybe there was a special program today.